Hi guys, you are about to watch my video that I made of me making carrot cake jam. But when I looked at the video last night, actually what happened is we are just a week away from Christmas and I was putting together some little gift packages for hostess gifts and Christmas gifts. I say that several times in the video, so it's so annoying. But that's what I was doing, and that reminded me that I had made this video back in October and I never actually edited it or put it together. So I decided that I would do that, and there were a couple of things I left out that I just wanted to add in. So firstly, the recipe is in this book. This is the Canadian version of the Ball book, so it's the same book, same recipes. You can find the recipe in here. If you're new to canning, I would really suggest that you use a proven, safe canning recipe. There are lots of recipes online that may not sort of qualify as tested and safe. So if you're just starting out, stick with something that you can be sure will be the right acidity for safe canning. I've only been canning for about 4 years, so I'm still a beginner as well. The video is a little rough. I realize that I say so a lot, so much, and anyways, so I have to stop doing that. I just did it. Anyway, I hope that you like the video and make yourself some carrot cake jam. Bye. Hi guys, it's me, Tammy. I want to show you how to make one of the most delicious jams I have ever tasted. I didn't even know this was a thing until about 6 years ago. A friend of mine gave me some as a gift, and it is so delicious. So I'm going to show you what you need and then how to make it. It is pretty late in the day. It's almost 5. It's the end of the day. It's 5 o'clock. And I just had a ton of stuff to do today, but there's a reason why I absolutely wanted to start the jam today, and I'll show you why. All right, so this is why I need to start this recipe today. Even though it's 5 o'clock and I don't want to do it, I absolutely have to. I bought these pears earlier in the week specifically because I was going to make this recipe. So that's what I'm about to do. Now, let me tell you, the last time I made this recipe, I didn't have quite enough pears. So I ended up using half pear, half apple in the recipe. I think I used a Granny Smith apple. So yeah, it worked out really well. And I think that I did a little Google search to make sure it was safe to do that. And I was told by Google it was. So hopefully that was correct. So I've got 1.5 cups of grated carrot. I used the smaller side to my box grater just so that the carrot pieces are a little bit on the smaller side. I didn't want huge chunks of carrot. So I made them nice and small. Then I have 1.5. Oh, I'll be doing the pears. I just didn't want to start them right away because I didn't want them to turn brown. So that's the very last thing that I need to do before I throw everything into the pot. And I'm going to need 1.5 cups of peeled, cored, and chopped pears. Okay, so after the pears, I need 1 3/4 of a cup pineapple. I am using crushed pineapple, and it's pretty amazing, but the can had the exact amount that I need. So it's like the can was made for this recipe, or vice versa. So I've got my pineapple. I have 3 tablespoons of bottled lemon juice. And then I've got my spices. Spice combo is cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves. So I've got that all ready to go. Then I'm going to need a pack of pectin. And this is the scary part, 6.5 cups of sugar. Always pour your sugar into a bowl so that you're not taking a long time to measure it into the hot pot. You want the sugar ready to pour in all at once. So I'm just going to quickly get these washed, peeled, and chopped up. And I'm going to make them, I'm going to chop them up fairly small because I don't want gigantic pieces, but you can make it as chunky and lumpy as you want. Okay, so I've got my my jars in my water bath canner, my water bath canning pot heating up. Now the recipe indicates we should get approximately 6 of these 250 ml half pint jars, but I do want to do a bunch of these smaller sized jars because I want to have a bunch of these on hand to give as gifts at Christmas, hostess gifts, that type of thing. I'm also planning on doing 2 batches of this jam. So those are heating up and we're going to start getting everything together in the pot. Here we go. We are going to start by getting the carrots, pears, and pineapple into this pot. There's the carrots. Don't worry, I will scrape those out. Carrots, there's the pears. That was 2 pears, by the way, to get 1.5 cups. It took 2 pears. So that's good. I still have 3 pears left, but I am gonna be doing 2 batches of this. I'm not gonna do 2 batches together because I don't think that's a good idea. I've heard that it's not a good idea to double a recipe. And I guess the only way it would work is if I had 2 canners or canning pots ready to go. And I do have 2 pots, but I only have 1 silicone mat. And I'm just gonna do this in 2 separate batches. You don't want to have it sitting in a pot for too long because the pectin would probably start making it thicken up. And then if you wait too long to get it in the jars, I don't know, I'm just guessing that's not a good idea, but I'm not an expert. So I don't know for sure, but we're doing it like this. So everything goes into the pot. I'm just going to keep it on the highest medium setting. And I'm going to keep all of my measuring things out because I'm making another batch. All right, so we have to combine the carrots, the pears, the pineapple with the juice from the can of the pineapple, the lemon juice, the cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves. So everything goes in together. I think I'm going to use a different spoon to measure, or to stir, I mean. And there goes the spices. So just get that all mixed in. All right, so we've got all of our ingredients in here. Give it a good mix. I've got the element turned up to high. And once this starts to boil, then I'm going to turn it down and I'm just going to let it simmer for about 20 minutes. All right, so while we're waiting for the simmering to happen, I still have 17 minutes out of the 20, so we have a long way to go. I just want to make sure I've got all my supplies ready. I'm using 2 types of lids. I have these gold lids and I have silver, and I think I'm going to use the gold lids on the tiny jars that I'm going to give as gifts. So I have some gold rings ready to go. I've got my funnel, I've got my pectin and my sugar here ready to be added. I have my jar lifter. I've got my bowl of white vinegar that I'm going to use to wipe the rims of the jars to make sure they're not sticky. I have my debubbler headspace measure, my lid lifter for getting the lids out of the pot. I haven't put any water in here yet because I find the lids rust so quickly that you can see over the last little while, I don't know if you can actually see that, but there's a little bit of rust there, and that's because I've been using this pot to heat my lids. Now, I'm not going to heat them to a boiling point, but I just like to keep the water warm. And I've tried so many times to just have the lids in a dish of hot tap water, but it always cools off really quickly for me. So that's why I prefer to have them in a little pot, and I'll just heat them up on the stove. But we have a long time to wait, so I'm not going to add water yet. And I'm going to start getting some of the ingredients ready again for the next batch that I'm going to make after this one. And that way I can put some of my spices away and my lemon juice, etc., etc. So I'll be back. Still 13 minutes to go on the timer, and it's just simmering away. But the pears are getting tender, and the smell is absolutely incredible. The cinnamon, cloves, it smells so good in here. It really, really smells like fall. But strangely enough, even though I think it's the 2nd of October today, or is it the 3rd? It's one of those. And it was 27 degrees outside today. So that is really, really hot for us. That's very, very unusual. And I actually had to go outside and water my tomatoes and strawberries. And my garden is basically pretty much done, but there's just those last few things. Oh, peppers. And I really didn't want to be watering the garden today. I'm just looking forward to fall. Make this recipe. It smells so good. Okay, I'll be back. I just realized I made a mistake. And the mistake is I was supposed to cover this. So I only have a minute left. I didn't cover it. So I probably lost some of the juiciness to evaporation. I can't believe that. So anyways, I guess we're gonna find out what happens if you don't follow the recipe exactly. So that is unfortunate. I have it covered now for the last minute. Don't know if that's gonna make any difference. I'm gonna go read the recipe over again before I go on to the next step, because that timer's about to go off. Okay. I'm so sad that I somehow missed that. I did not read. Always read your recipe carefully. I didn't do that. So our timer has gone off, and there we go. About a half a teaspoon of condensation, and I lost probably a quarter cup. So what we need to do is we need to remove it from the heat. Because I have induction, my element doesn't have any heat. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't really have to get it off the element because the element doesn't hold any heat. I'm going to get that in. So I'm going to take it off the heat, add the pectin, stir until dissolved. So I'm quickly going to stir that in. All right, then I need to bring it back to a boil. So back we go, on goes the element. Mix the pectin in really well. Okay, now let me look at my instructions again. So add the pectin, bring to a boil, add the sugar all at once. Here goes the sugar. Oh my God, that's a lot of sugar. Stay calm, stay calm. You're not gonna eat cupfuls of this at a time. You're just gonna have small amounts. I'm turning that element down just a little so I can get the sugar dissolving. Ooh, it's just so crunchy and sugary. Okay, so our sugar is dissolved. Now we need to get it back to a full rolling boil and boil for 1 minute, stirring constantly. So remember to know when it's reached a good enough boil, you shouldn't be able to stir the boil away. Okay, does that make sense? So it's not boiling yet. It looks beautiful. My jars are nice and hot. I've got my lids. I don't know if it's in sight there, but I have my lids warming up on another element. Remember, do not boil your lids. The water is just hot. Let me show you. Like there's little bubbles on the bottom of the pot, but not boiling, okay? So that is just enough to heat up that little rubber seal on the lid. Okay, we're still not quite at a boil, but it's coming. And then we have to boil for 1 minute, remove, skim off any foam. I keep forgetting that you can add like a little half teaspoon of butter to prevent it from foaming. But I keep forgetting that. I think I did that on the first jelly that I made, and then I made 2 other jellies where I forgot, and now I'm forgetting again. So it's starting to boil, but if I stir it, it stops. So that's not a rolling boil. It's now 5:39, so this has taken about 40 minutes so far. Not too bad. It's really easy. There's just a little bit of prep work, but all in all, it's a very easy recipe to do. Okay. So even though I'm stirring, it's still boiling. So my timer is set for a minute. And I'm gonna just turn it down one notch because I don't want to splatter my arm. And you can see that there is a bit of foam on top. It'll probably start to disappear as soon as I take it off of the heat. Stirring constantly. All right, almost ready to fill the jars. There's quite a bit of foam on here. Now, I haven't made this recipe for 2 years, so I kind of forget how I did it. And I don't remember if there was this much foam, but that's okay. I feel like if I start to try to skim off the foam, it's gonna be tricky because all of the pears are all floating up in the foam. So I'm just going to try to kind of stir the foam away. And we'll see how that goes. Yeah, it's going okay. All right, so I've got I'm gonna bring this one close. I'm gonna just set the element on keep warm, so we just have a little bit of heat. Moving my lids over, and I'm gonna put those on keep warm as well. Turn off this element, and I'm gonna start getting some jars out. I like to wear my rubber glove so that if I have to grab the jar, I'm not gonna burn myself. That's just a little tip. That's how I like to do it. So I'm gonna take out 3 jars at a time, trying not to drip into pot of jam. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now we flip these over. Flip, and start filling. You want to go pretty fast because the pectin will start gelling everything up, and then it gets extra sticky. All right. Fill these to a 1/4 inch headspace. And I just filled these jars and I forgot to move the camera. So you missed it. I don't think there's any bubbles in here, so debubbling isn't really necessary. It's kind of chunky and lumpy, but not to the degree where we need to remove the bubbles. Very, very extremely sticky. So I want to try to go fast here. When you're canning something as sticky as this, it's really important to get that rim clean. It's important no matter what you're canning, but sometimes if it's sticky, it doesn't wipe off that well on the first go around. You may have to, okay, I need to find a silver lid. Here we go, silver lid. And a silver ring. 1 down. And since it's so hot out, I'm actually wearing shorts, which is against my rule of wearing long pants. Okay, so this is what I've got left. I'll tilt the pot so you can see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually fill another jar, and that'll be the one that I just keep in my fridge. And I'll probably use at least a 1/2 pint size, even though even though that'll be a little bit too big for this amount. When I do my next batch, which I'm gonna do right after this, if I have any left over in that, then I can just add it to the jar again. So now everything's in the canner. I'm going to turn the heat up to high. And as soon as we reach a rolling boil, then I'm gonna turn it down and process for, I believe the processing time is 10 minutes. And yes, the processing time is 10 minutes. Since I'm so good at reading recipes, yeah, now I'm triple checking myself. So I've started getting some of my other ingredients, or some of the ingredients, ready for the next batch. I've got the pineapple, my spices, lemon juice. I'm gonna grate these carrots and just keep going. Okay, guess what? We're at a rolling boil now, so I'm gonna set the timer for 10 minutes. All right, so while that is going, I'm going to get my carrots grated and peel my pears, etc., etc. Okay, timer's gone off. Turn your element off. Be very, very careful taking the lid off of your canner or your pot. You should get the fan going. Should have had that going. All right, so you're gonna just take the lid off. We'll take a peek in the pot and see how things look. There we go. Now, do not touch that. Set your timer for 5 minutes and just leave the jars the way they are. Do not touch them. 5 minutes has passed. I have the ingredients for my next batch in my pot here, except for the pears. I still have to peel and chop the pears, and then I'll get that next batch going. And I'm gonna take these out of the canner. Do not tilt your jars, lift them straight up and over. I'd like to get this a little closer. And the jars will start popping as they seal, which is the best part. It's very tempting to tip your jars, but you're not supposed to, because the sealing, the canning sealing process really isn't going to be complete for a few more hours. So just because they're coming out of the canner does not mean that you've done the canning process. So we're going to take those out. Always have a tea towel ready to set them on. And remember to use your grossest old tea towels, because when you saw how sticky it got, it was so sticky that it was hard for me to spin the jars and wipe the rims. So all I did is I've turned the tea towel over, and so I have another clean surface here to start working with. Now, you can hear those jars popping. That is just the best sound ever. So I had 4, 5, 6, I ended up with 7 half pints. So that was 1/2 pint more than the recipe said that I was going to end up with. So that's fantastic. Sometimes it happens, you have a little more, you have a little less. It just, that's the way it goes. So it's a good idea to always have some extra jars heating, maybe a little more than you would need. In my case though, the amount of jars over here that I canned were all that I was able to fit in the canner. So this one here, like I said, I will probably just keep this one directly in the fridge, but I guess I could top it off with my next batch, and then I could put that through the canner. So I guess I'll decide as I go. Now, I am doing another batch, and even though my jars did go through the dishwasher, it's now been at least an hour since the dishwasher finished, maybe an hour and a half. So the jars are warm, but they're not warm enough that I can put them directly into my canning pot with the hot water. So what I'm gonna do is, as you know, it takes 20 minutes of simmering time for this to simmer with the lid on. Don't forget the lid. So I'm just gonna leave the lid off of the canning pot. The water will just gradually cool off. And then when I feel that it's not too hot anymore, when I can put my finger in there, then I'm gonna add the next batch of jars. So that should work out really well timing wise, since this has to simmer for the 20 minutes and I still have to peel the pears. So I'm gonna do that. And I'm not gonna take you through the entire whole process, but don't worry, I'm not gonna forget this time. I am going to put the lid on my pot. So don't forget that. Okay, just a quick update as to where we're at. My timer just went off for the 20 minutes that I need to be simmering this second batch. And I did put the cover on, so no problems there. And you know what? I'm not, oops, I'll turn the timer off. I'm not noticing a really big difference in the amount of liquid that's in there. So what I'm gonna do now, before I add my pectin, is I need to get my jars heating up. Now the water, it's still quite hot. Let's just hope for the best. I'm gonna just kind of put a little water in the jar, give it a little swirl, and sort of try to warm it up as delicately as I can. I did add some tap water to this, but yeah, it's still quite hot. I can dip my finger in, but I wouldn't want to like put my hand in and keep it in. It's that hot. It was, I actually did test the temperature, and it was, I'm just gonna turn that pot off for a second. I tested the temp and it was 140 degrees. Then I added some tap water, but it's still quite hot. And now it's time to add the pectin to this, and I'm adding that in. And then I'm going to stir it. Then we need to bring it back to a boil. We're boiling, so here goes the sugar. And it's best if you're doing this in a really heavy bottomed pot. My pots are very, very heavy. But if you were using a thin aluminum pot, then you just have to be even more careful that you're not scorching. And then you remember we have to let it come to a rolling boil, and then we set a timer for 1 minute. It is now 6:57, so we've been at this for about 2 hours. Because we started at 5, I think, wasn't it? But I had already had some of my ingredients prepared, I think, by 5. My jars were washed, my pots were ready to go. So if you were just doing a single batch, you can, from start to finish, probably expect an hour and a half of time to do this. And the nice thing is, when this has to simmer for 20 minutes, that gives you a good amount of time to really get everything cleaned up. I have got my island totally cleaned. I've washed a bunch of the dishes already. So once I get this in the canner processing, then I'll do the rest of the cleanup. So you can see, I think, that the foam has really gone down. So now we're gonna get ready to put this in jars. Okay, it is 8:06 and I'm done. Wait, is it 8? Oh, sorry, 8:04, close. So yeah, I got everything cleaned. All of the jars seemed to process really well. They look like they've all sealed. I haven't emptied the canner yet because the water was just too hot. So it's still, pot's still pretty hot. So I'm gonna let it cool just a little bit more before I dump it and wash it. And then here's all of our carrot cake jam. And yeah, it looks fantastic. This is the, just what was left after I did the last batch. And so I just have one of the screw on lids on there. I'm gonna put it in the fridge. The rest of these will stay here. You're supposed to leave them for 24 hours, but probably by tomorrow afternoon, I'll just start removing the rings, and I'll just make sure that I can hold them by the lid, make sure they're all sealed. Then I'll label them and get them put away in the pantry. And I really hope that you'll try this recipe. It's so delicious, and it's such a great gift to give away. Like I said, you don't have to even water bath can it. If you want to whip up a batch and just get it into jars and then give them as gifts. The only thing is it'll have to be refrigerated if it's not properly canned. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. All right, I just wanted to quickly show you what the jars look like. I made these labels for them, and I think they're so cute. I ended up doing one more batch, actually, of the carrot cake jam, and I thought it would be a really good thing to have on hand for a hostess gift or to give neighbors at Christmas, that type of thing. So that's why I did some of these with these really cute little Christmas labels. And then there's some other ones here that I did just in that type of a label. I think it's so cute. Then I have these three here that I personalized even more because I'm planning on going to visit my daughter, and I thought I'd take them with me to give to her. So that is what I ended up with. I'm giving some of these away to some of my friends that I'm seeing tonight, and I'm gonna pop these down into my pantry so they'll be in a nice, cool, dark place. And just in case you're curious about these labels, I made them on the avery.ca website, and they have a ton of templates available. So all you need to do is go to Staples, buy whatever labels, whatever size, whatever shape you like, and then you have a ton of templates, different patterns that you can choose from on the website, and you can just print them out. You can either order them and they'll print them and send them to you, or if you have a printer, you could just print them on your own, which is the way I've always done it. And I use these labels for so many things in my house. I use them for my spices, my pantry, items that we take into storage, Christmas bins, and I'm actually going to be reorganizing all of my Christmas stuff soon, and I'll be using some more labels from the Avery website. Anyways, there you go.